'Tis the season to be jolly, but breaking the rules with parties at home may cost you more than you think. To tell us what we need to know, Nainesh Kotak from Kotak Law joins us via Skype. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. Thank you.
Of course, you're a regular on Morning Live, but this time every year, we're talking about liability with Christmas and New Year's parties. It's a whole different ballgame this year, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. Much of the province is in, either a red zone or in fact, for the Toronto area, in a gray zone. And with those come restrictions in terms of gatherings, and including gatherings of non-household members in your own home. And this is particularly important, obviously, around holiday time, Christmas time, where traditionally, we get together and with our loved ones. So, most people certainly know about the potential for fines. There have been fines laid throughout the province throughout the pandemic, and those fines can, in fact, be quite significant for the host or guest. But there's another aspect that I think people really should be aware of, and that is the potential of legal liability and the lack of insurance coverage, potential lack of insurance coverage in the event that a guest contracts COVID-19 at a gathering that a homeowner set up. So, and it's not just so much in terms of whether or not the insurance will pay if somebody sues, because those claims may be difficult to prove, in terms of how COVID was contracted and the causation, but whether or not they will pay for a legal defense. Most home insurance policies contain certain exclusions. There are a few that currently contain a communicable disease exclusion, so that if somebody contracts a communicable disease, including COVID at your home, you wouldn't be covered in terms of liability. And many insurance policies now that are in fact being renewed are having that clause in the policy. So I think it's very important that, when you come up for renewal, or when, if you're thinking of a gathering, you should really look into that. And I guess, Bob, we have to look at this. It is difficult. Obviously, it's been very difficult for families, particularly who have elderly people in the family as well. In terms of not being able to get together, the social isolation that we've sort of felt throughout the pandemic, and it's going to be very difficult during the holiday season, the Christmas holiday season, obviously. But I suppose we have to look: is breaking the rules, is it worth the emotional consequence if something goes wrong, the financial and potential legal consequence?
There's the fines, but back to that exclusion you were talking about. So,
yes.
And you're saying it's difficult to prove, but let's say there was someone that contracted COVID-19 and a severe reaction, severe illness, and they're impacted. So if there's litigation here, contact tracing can be pretty accurate. What if you get into, an extreme case where, it happened at this party?
Yes, and it has happened. There's been super spreading events. So yes, if there's some argument to be made of a voluntary assumption of risk, that if a guest goes to a home, knowing we're in the midst of a pandemic, and knowing there are certain restrictions on that, and if you actually voluntarily go, there will be a defense put forth that you sort of knew what you were getting into, and it may reduce the amount of damages that can be collected. But again, if your insurer won't cover you, and if your insurer won't pay for your legal defense because there are exclusions in your insurance policy that allow them to do that, then it becomes an economic burden to the homeowner. So that's really, and you definitely need to look at the policy. Maybe that particular exclusion is not in your own policy, and you would be covered. But it's certainly something that in many policies that are being renewed, we're seeing these exclusion clauses. The one for criminal acts, unlawful acts are already there, but the one for a communicable disease, it's something that we're going to probably see in all of our policies. You do see them in the United States, and they're coming to Canada.
Okay, and I wish we had more time, because I know you warned us about, decorating, of course, and fresh cut trees, and there's a big, there's a chance for damage there as well. But you know what? We'll link up your website, kotaklaw.chch.com, because there's a wealth of information. Thanks, Nainesh, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.